Vaccines reduce the chances of infection and serious illness significantly in COVID-19. Make sure you get vaccinated, especially if you are over 60 years of age.
Good evening and welcome. You are watching Primetime News on TV1, bringing you the news. I'm Tharuja Kumar Singha. Up first in your headlines.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Governor of the central bank to resign from his position.
වඩා යහපත් ප්‍රතිඵල සඳහා කළ යුතු ප්‍රතිපත්ති වෙනස්කම් ගැනත් සිතමින් මානසික පීඩනයෙන් පසුකළ දින ගණන් බොහෝයි.
Ongoing quarantine curfew extended till the 21st. Decision taken to keep island-wide economic centres open. President to address the UN General Assembly. Prime Minister visits Italy to address an international symposium. Joint port trade unions write to the President, requesting him not to sell off the 13-acre land at the Colombo port. Mahasangha demands to reveal the mastermind behind the data scam at the NMRA.
මහමොලකරු කවුද? මේකේ මහමොලකරු හොයාගන්න එක වැදගත් වෙන්නේ.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
On to your lead story tonight. Governor of the Central Bank, Professor W. Lakshman, has decided to retire. He announced this decision during an online media briefing held today.
My intention and plan was to tender my resignation papers on my 80th birthday coming next month. The unpleasant events over the last week or 10 days have shortened my intended service period by about 6 weeks. I am addressing you now to inform you and through you the general public that I am planning to retire after Tuesday, 14th September.
What were the factors that contributed to the resignation of the governor?
I have worked tirelessly day and night to conscientiously perform my duties and functions with the greatest degree of diligence. But because of certain natural and human factors beyond our control, all the intended results of these efforts could not be achieved all the time. The most common such factor that has affected our work and its results, of course, has been the several waves of COVID-19, starting from just 3 months of my assuming duties. There were, of course, various other human and institutional factors also responsible for difficulties to achieve best results. Thinking of these and contemplating corrective measures to be taken is indeed, there were many days and nights I spent under stress. I do therefore think that my having to give up the governor position even under these not so perfect conditions is indeed a blessing in disguise.
Will the governor accept a position at the International Monetary Fund?
I have been offered the position of Sri Lanka's alternative executive director at the International Monetary Fund in Washington for 1 year when I leave this position. I have declined this attractive offer as this is against principles I cherish.
In more headline-making news, quarantine curfew has been extended until 21st of Tuesday of this month. The decision was reached at a meeting of the special committee appointed to curb the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country, chaired by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
The meeting of the COVID-19 committee was held online today. During the meeting, health sector officials pointed out that many of the COVID-19 deaths are reported from among people above the age of 60 and those who have not received a single dose of the vaccine. The President stressed that people who are reluctant to receive the vaccine must be encouraged to get vaccinated. The President also highlighted the need for continuing the mobile vaccination program to inoculate people above the age of 60 and those who are suffering from various disabilities. The discussions today also focused on the fact that the closures of schools in the wake of COVID-19 during 2020 and 2021 has affected the primary education of 700,000 students. The President's media division stated that there are over 3,000 rural schools with less than 100 students in each, and the technical committees of the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education are in the process of drafting guidelines and considering the possibility of reopening these schools. The President's media division stated that it was decided at the meeting to allow all economic centres to remain open, considering the hardships faced by vegetable farmers to bring their daily produce to the market.
Can the number of COVID-19 deaths that occur at home and before hospitalization be reduced?
The number of COVID-19 deaths at home and before hospitalization of the patients has increased. According to the information published by the Epidemiology Unit, 19.5% of the total number of COVID-19 deaths in the country took place before the patients were hospitalized. By the 3rd of this month, a total of 1,339 patients had died at home. 573 patients died while being hospitalized. The highest number of deaths at home was reported in the Gampaha district. The number stands at 275. The highest number of deaths during hospitalization, which is 182, is also reported from the same district.
Although a person would have been hospitalized immediately under different circumstances, these days the hospitalization of such patients are delayed due to the quarantine curfew being in effect and issues like getting a vehicle. There are many reasons that contribute to this. We are working towards implementing programs on a regional level through health officials to ensure that such deaths are prevented.
The latest revelation of the Sri Jayawardhanapura University on the spread of COVID-19. The Sri Jayawardhanapura University has confirmed that the Delta variant has become the dominant variant of COVID-19 spreading in Sri Lanka. The Allergy, Immunology and Cell Biology Unit of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura said that 95% of COVID-19 patients detected in Sri Lanka are infected with the Delta variant.
We identified
that 95.8% of the COVID-19 infections in Sri Lanka are of the Delta variant. The most important fact here is that although small pockets of Alpha variant infected patients are detected from certain areas, about 95% of the cases in many parts of the island are of the Delta variant. In the Western province, the number of Delta variant infections is 100%. In the Sabaragamuwa province, 81 of 87 samples tested were of the Delta variant. In the Yuva province, all 3 samples that we received were Delta variant strains. In the North Central province, 59 of the 60 samples were Delta patients. In the Northwestern province, all 22 samples were of the Delta variant. In the Eastern province, 94 of the 100 samples were identified as Delta variant. In the Northern province, 113 out of the 123 samples were of the Delta variant. In the Southern province, 63 of the 64 samples were identified as the Delta variant. Also in the Central province, 27 of the 29 samples that we received were of the Delta variant. In Colombo, all 130 samples that we collected were identified as the Delta variant of COVID-19. The Delta variant has become the dominant variant in all parts of these provinces. Under such a situation, interprovincial travel restrictions are not of much use, as the Delta variant has already become the dominant variant in all of the provinces.
Although the possibility for the spread of the virus is higher, it will spread only if it is allowed to spread. If you don't allow the virus to spread, it will not spread. Through adhering to the health guidelines that have been issued, we can bring the spread of this virus under control. Therefore, even in the future, there is a possibility for another variant to emerge, and that situation might change. Until such time, if we are adhering to the health guidelines, I believe that we can protect ourselves against any variant of COVID-19.
Will the vaccine be effective against the Delta variant?
In 2 weeks after a person is inoculated with both doses of any of the vaccines administered in Sri Lanka, which are the Sinopharm, Pfizer, Moderna or Sputnik vaccines, they will get adequate immunity. All of these vaccines prevent serious complications and death. Even the World Health Organization is of this opinion.
What is the issue concerning the vaccination drive of COVID-19?
The total number of Sri Lankans who have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19 exceeded 10 million. Accordingly, 1,211,537 people have received both doses of the vaccine. 8,318,368 people received the second dose of the Sinopharm vaccine yesterday. 889,110 received the second dose of the AstraZeneca, while 723,446 received the second dose of the Moderna vaccine. 237,163 people were administered the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine and 43,450 received the second dose of the Sinopharm vaccine. Only 12% of the population aged between 20 to 29 years have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19, whereas 83% of the population over 30 years have received both doses of the vaccine. 60% of Sri Lankans have only received one dose of the vaccine. Only 46% of the entire population have been fully vaccinated. This is a reasonable situation. According to the latest report released by the Epidemiology Unit, 79.7% of those who died of COVID-19 on the 3rd of this month were unvaccinated. 76.8% of the deaths were those above the age of 60.
Is the vaccination drive for the population over the age of 60 successful?
Over 90% of the population has been vaccinated. That is the estimate we have. It may not be 100% accurate since we do not have a definite understanding of the actual statistics. There may be more people who are yet to be vaccinated.
A webinar organized by the Colombo Chamber of Commerce titled COVID-19 The Way Forward was held this afternoon. Professor Neelika Malavige, head of the Department of Immunology and Molecular Sciences at the Sri Jayawardhanapura University, Dr. Prasanna Gunasena, the chairman of the State Pharmaceutical Corporation, and Dr. Upul Disanayaka, consultant physician at the National Hospital, spoke at the event. The event was moderated by Professor Saroj Jayasinghe.
We were at the pandemic state last year, and this is the year of transition so that we can go into the endemic state. Endemic means when a disease is present basically somewhere and people get infection on a day-to-day basis, like dengue. Dengue is here. All the common cold viruses are here. They are here to stay. So likewise, I think the immediate thing that we need to accept, I mean everybody knows it, that COVID is here to stay, but let that sink in, that COVID is here to stay. So if COVID is here to stay, then we need to change our strategy of how we move from this transition state to endemic state. So for instance, quarantine, in the endemic state, there is no quarantine and contact tracing. Okay, it would be symptomatic contact tracing, testing people who have symptoms and so on. So this is how we should transit, and of course we don't have to follow the models given by any country. We can look at the models that are developed by ourselves, so we can come with our own methods of moving forward.
So far we have spent 46 billion rupees for the vaccines we have procured already, and we have to spend another 30 billion rupees. Total come to 76 billion rupees. That includes the third dose. And we had discussions with World Bank and Asian Development Bank, and we should be happy. They qualified State Pharmaceutical Corporation as the first institution in Southeast Asia to be eligible for the World Bank and ADB loan to procure vaccines. And they especially looked into anti-corruption and anti-bribery process and the procurement methodology we follow in our institution. So now all the vaccines are funded by two agencies, and total necessary finances have been found, and almost everything has been paid already. So it's a matter of time that we are waiting for the vaccines to Sri Lanka.
The 76th General Assembly of the United Nations is due to begin on the 21st of this month. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa will attend the assembly for the first time.
The 76th General Assembly of the United Nations will begin in New York on the 21st of September. This is the first time that the President will travel overseas for an international conference. The President is due to hold discussions with a number of state leaders on the sidelines of the Assembly on economic, educational and agricultural sectors. The President will attend the General Assembly with Foreign Minister G.L. Peris, Principal Advisor Lalit Weeratunga and Foreign Secretary Admiral Professor Janath Kolomage. The President will be attending the General Assembly with a small delegation considering the current situation in the country and his personal policies. This is the smallest delegation that will take part in the sessions of the United Nations General Assembly in the history of Sri Lanka. First Lady Ayoma Rajapaksa will take part in the tour at her own expense.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa left for Italy this morning. The Prime Minister's office said that the Prime Minister had left for Italy to attend an international symposium to be held at the University of Bologna. Adding further, the Prime Minister's office said the Prime Minister is to deliver the keynote address at the inaugural session of the symposium to be held at the university, and that this visit has been scheduled for diplomatic reasons as well. The Sri Lankan delegation to Italy includes the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Professor G.L. Peris, and the Secretary to the Prime Minister, Gamini Senara.
I was not aware of this statement the Cardinal had made. The Prime Minister had visited the Pope on multiple previous occasions. However, he hadn't planned to meet the Pope this time. I don't think that anyone should be given the right to give orders to the Prime Minister of the country on what he must and must not do. Not just the Prime Minister, anyone should be given the right to do as they wish. I don't know why the Cardinal made such a statement. According to my knowledge, the Prime Minister's agenda did not include an audience with the Pope. You will have to direct your questions to the Cardinal himself. The Foreign Ministry clearly mentioned in an announcement that the Prime Minister's visit was not for that purpose. He went there to attend an international symposium in Bologna. That is why he left for Italy.
ඒ පාසක ප්‍රහාරය සම්බන්ධයෙන් කලකදී කාඩිනල් හිමිපාණන් වහන්සේගේ සාකච්ඡාව
When the Cardinal commented on the April 21st attacks for the very first time, it was like music to the ears of the members of the ruling faction until they came into power. After they came into power, they only expressed their dismay over this. There is nothing that our Criminal Investigations Unit failed to find, especially the CID. The only reason such a thing could happen is if this government is behind it. The priority here is not to stress the comments made by the Cardinal, but investigate the attacks and bring the mastermind behind this before justice. That is how we can ensure national security. That is the opinion of the Cardinal and the sensible people in our country. The government is not looking into this. They have swept this issue under the carpet. This is why they decided to leave for Italy as well. They are now trying to turn the pages of this story.
රෝමයට පවා යන්න පාලකයෝ සූදානම් වුණේ. ඒක අතේපත් වුණාට පස්සේ දැන් වෙන පොතක් පෙරලා පවුල කට්ටිය ගිහින් තියෙනවා.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
We are crossing over to a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the news. The joint port trade unions have called on the President to rescind the cabinet paper proposing the establishment of a joint Chinese investment project to establish a South Asia freight services center on a 13-acre plot of land in the Colombo port. In a letter to the President, the unions said that lands that are essential to the future strategic development of the port must not be sold off under any circumstances.
A proposal has been put forward to hand over the 13-acre plot of land and is located on the access road to the CICT, SAGT and the West Terminals, to CICT of which China is a majority shareholder. The project envisions the establishment of a joint investment project in the form of the South Asia Freight Services Center. The joint port trade unions claim this project would deprive the Ports Authority of 70% of its annual freight services business. They point out that this land, which is to be given away on a 35-year lease, is of strategic importance to the future development of the port, noting that the country is facing a major economic crisis where it has been forced to seek dollars from Bangladesh. The unions question whether selling of freight services, which is one of the limited foreign exchange streams for the country, to the Chinese, aligns with the aspirations of the people who voted for the president.
This freight service centre will be established as a business with foreign investment. Given the current economic situation, we do not have the capability to operate this on our own. As the world develops, we cannot say that we did not have the logistical hub to send people elsewhere. We must realize that if we are to become a shipping hub, then we must provide all the services that are available elsewhere. Having saved the hen known as the Eastern Terminal, now we are being made to save the hen's eggs. The golden eggs laid by the hen are being given to China. We call upon all groups who came forward to halt the sale of the Eastern Terminal to step up once again. All equipments and weapons for our armed forces come through the port. All the medicines for the country come through the port. The country's food comes through the Ports Authority. When this is handed over to private companies, what will happen? They will raise the fees, which will increase the cost of living. The confidentiality of shipments of bullets to the army will be lost. This will compromise our national security.
On to a story that raised not a few but many eyebrows across the country. Governor of the Central Bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman, said that the decision to place limits on the import of 690 items was taken after examining the matter for 3 months.
The central bank yesterday announced that a 100% cash margin needs to be deposited with opening letters of credit for 693 items. These items range from mobile phones, chocolates, cereal and a variety of clothing.
The issue we tried to address to bring some control in respect of the increasing trade deficit that we could observe over the last few months, while promoting exports as much as possible to various working groups and things like that, or task forces and things like that. We still believe that the items that are mentioned in this are really inessential or non-urgent. If there are, of course, articles found in that list which will be of a different nature, essential for consumption as well as for production, then of course those articles can be removed. So this has to be a changing kind of exercise, but the objective is to achieve the restraint on the trade deficit expansion.
One is the replacement of economic industrialization, and the other is the transfer of money by the central bank to the state treasury, or the printing of money. This program that they began is a complete failure. We are on track to further destroy our economy. This country cannot be developed by the programs that were in place between the periods of 1970 and 77 and 1960 and 65. That must be understood. Production is carried out through production channels. Things are not manufactured in one place. We need to be able to integrate ourselves into these production channels. We can strengthen our local manufacturers if we develop our international markets.
අපේ ජාත්‍යන්තර වෙළඳපොළ පුල් කරගත්තොත් විතරයි. දැන් ඒ අනුව දැන් විදුලි පංකා රූපවාහිනී එතකොට චොක්ලට් ඇපල් යට ඇඳුම් ඕවා හංගන්න ගනීද? අනේ වන්ද බලමුකෝ මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා. ඉතින් දැන් ගබඩා කඩන එකට දැන් මේ කරන්නේ. දැන් විහිළුවක් වෙන්නේ යට ඇඳුම් ගබඩාවක් කඩන්න ගියොත් එහෙම.
Don't we sew undergarments in Sri Lanka? In Pamunua, in Maharagama, there are undergarments for everyone from children to senior citizens. To import undergarments, we have to spend dollars, not rupees. We have a foreign exchange problem. If every household were to purchase these items, our expenditure and income will be like the sky and the earth. At a time of economic crisis and during this global pandemic, decisions like these have clearly been taken based on what the country is facing. Demand and supply is a very simple principle. Governments should intervene to steer markets in line with that principle. and not by imposing unnecessary rules and regulations. What they have done now is akin to closing the stable doors after the horse has bolted. In the next 3 to 4 months, a major shortage of goods will arise in the country, not just rice and sugar. I wonder how in this day and age, this telephone, computers and underwears have been classified as non-essential items. At a time like this, the government and the people must understand what essential goods are. We are confident that with time, as our reserves increase and development proposals are implemented, the economy will return to normal and we will be able to gradually remove these restrictions. We are not imposing these restrictions because we want to. At a time like this, mobile phones have become essential. But what has the government done? They have classified these goods, which are essential for children engaging in online education, as non-essential goods. This will cause a shortage of mobile phones in the market. Prices will go up and it will become unaffordable for ordinary people. Televisions have been classified as non-essential. The same goes for kettles. Undergarments have also been included as non-essentials. This is farcical. It doesn't really apply to this government anymore, since the government and all those who helped bring them into power have been stripped naked. It is clear to us that what is happening now is that the government has no vision or strategy for the economy. They are disregarding the businesses that are earning foreign exchange for the country and are helping a handful of business owners who helped them at the elections and are now continuing to help cover up their mistakes.
While the discourse on the restrictions imposed on imports continues, economic centres across the country are open to ensure the food supply in the country. Although farmers brought their produce to the Dambulla designated economic centre, the price had to be reduced due to low demand. 1 kilogram of leeks between 130 rupees and 140 rupees. 1 kilogram of carrot and cabbage 100 rupees. 1 kilogram of green chilies between 150 and 180 rupees. 1 kilogram of red onions between 210 and 280 rupees. Many farmers from across the country brought their produce to the Colombo Manning market today. Economic centres in Katugastota, Kapitipola and Tambuttegama saw a low demand for the harvest of farmers. Large stocks of fish were seen at the Paliagoda fish market complex today. The farmers increased their prices by a mere 5 rupees, while the rice mill owners are receiving profits of 50 rupees. Large-scale mill owners earn profits of around 50 billion rupees per season. We are not against farmers charging reasonable prices on their produce. We are for this. However, we request you to avoid pretending to represent the farmers but make the mill owners rich instead. We are hoping to increase the paddy prices before the next Maha season. We grind all the paddy that we receive from the paddy marketing board to the paddy mill owners. We also protect all paddy mill owners.
මේ අතර පසුගිය දින කිහිපයේ සහල් සහ දිගටම වැටලීම් සිදු වූ අතර රජය නියම කළ මිල
The data scam.
Venerable Pahiyangale Anandasagara Thera is calling on the authorities to immediately unmask the masterminds behind the erasure of data of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority stored on the government's data cloud.
This company, known as Epic, is also responsible for the data of the EPF and ETF. Arresting the CEO of this company will not provide answers. We must uncover the mastermind behind this. When we embark on an environmental project, we back up information on 2 or 3 hard disks. Any organization keeps a backup. The NMRA didn't have a backup. We wish to say to the Information and Communications Technology Agency that it is pointless for the taxpayers of the country to sustain ICTA anymore. We should abandon that organization. This information should have been stored at the National Archives. Who is the mastermind? Unmasking the mastermind of this is the most important thing. The CEO of the Epic company is not the mastermind. Until the mastermind is exposed, we cannot get to the bottom of this scam. The national security is at risk. One faulty medication can cause thousands of people in the country to die. We wish to ask, where are the regulatory documents? The tender process and all related documents are in this file. All of this has disappeared today. By disappearing this data, they are toying with the people's lives. If this is a government that is accountable to the people, then the health ministers, state ministers and relevant subject ministers should be arrested. The other masterminds behind this, including the chairman of the NMRA, will come out after this. We clearly say to the government that this should not be considered a game.
The data scam.
The Inter-University Students' Federation, convening a media briefing today, pointed out that the individual who was arrested over the charges made under the Public Property Act for the data scam of the NMRA is being released, and their members who are in remand custody over charges made under the Public Property Act are treated differently.
The data wipe of the government cloud took place on the 9th of June. It was only day before yesterday that the authorities took steps to arrest the individual. But this individual, who was arrested over the charges made under the Public Property Act, was released on bail yesterday. The government has put the trade union activists who fought for education rights behind bars under the Public Property Act. Today it has been a little over a month since they were remanded. This double standard is a serious issue.
A panel discussion themed Pay Your Rent, Build Back Better with Nature was held yesterday. The discussion was organized by the Environmental Foundation Limited. Newsfirst was the official media partner of the event.
The keynote address at the event was delivered by Valmik Thapar, an Indian naturalist, conservationist and writer.
Like you have war crimes, which sits in The Hague, the crimes against what has happened with climate change and global warming are so severe that we can't even keep count of the dead. So we need like a war crimes tribunal for the crimes against environment. And every senior government officer and politician, because you in Sri Lanka, as what I heard, have a lot of political intervention in things. We have the same thing in India at a state level. Unbelievable. They can be summoned to an international crime tribunal for green issues. People have to know they are answerable with jail sentences, if not more serious sentences. This is the only way that all these great international policies will see the light of their people, will feel answerable. So there's some answerability with the War Crimes Tribunal. Let's call for an Environmental Crimes Tribunal, where people are summoned from different countries. What did you do? Why did you clear that? How dare you intervene? Make people answerable. Nobody's answerable. The minute you get into power in this world, you're not answerable. Everyone thinks they're God.
The discussion also featured Dr. Lalana De Silva, head of the Independent Redress Mechanism of the Green Climate Fund, Dr. Eric Vikramanayaka, chairperson, EFL Director, Wildlife and Wetlands, and Ms. Hasanthi Disanayaka, Director General of Ocean Affairs, Environment and Climate Change at the Foreign Ministry of Sri Lanka. Environmental Foundation Limited is a non-profit public interest litigation organisation with a mission to conserve and protect the natural environment of Sri Lanka, ensuring a sustainable future.
And that's a wrap of the news. Thank you for watching and good night.